Hi guys, today I am going to give you a demonstration on how to dry mount photographs. So I have a sample print to show you here, which is a dry mounted print from one of my portfolio. This was dry mounted many moons ago. You can see we have a nice fibre-based print dry mounted on some off-white museum board, and this has been done some time, and you can see that it's totally adhered, nice and clean, totally flat and ready for framing. I suppose technically I'd like to say dry mounting regarding archival stability and museum standards is probably looked down upon because of the resin or the adhesive resin that's used to bond the print to the paper, the dry mounting tissue. However, it's so clean and precise, you can place the print exactly where you want it, and once you've dry mounted it properly, it's pretty much there forever. It can't be removed. Some museums don't like that because a valuable piece of artwork, a valuable print, should really be hinge taped using gum tape so that it could be lifted from the substrate and remounted or archived some other way. But listen, if it's good enough for Ansel Adams, who used to dry mount his work, then it's good enough for me. As I said, it's a nice, permanent, clean way to present and mount your photographs. So, tools of the trade. You obviously need to have a few specific pieces of equipment to do this properly, and most of the stuff I use here today I've been using a long time, over 30 years in fact. Dry mounting is permanent. If done properly, it's super permanent and will last forever. The dry mounting process is beautifully simple. I like to wear gloves when I'm working on my exhibition prints, because even though my hands are clean, there is a little bit of grease and residue that could just stick to the print. These are test prints, and I've just got into a habit of using gloves. So in principle, we have the dry mounting tissue with a sample here. We have offcut of mounting board, this is museum board, and the photograph. And in principle, the way dry mounting works is you have your chosen substrate, museum board, you have your adhesive tissue, and you have your print. You stick the tissue to the back of the print, you tack it with a little bit of heat from a tacking iron like this. This hasn't got a thermostatic control, it's just hot. But basically you bond the tissue to the back of the print, and that means if you tack it on, it'll stick and it won't move or slide about. Once you've done that, you can then place the print onto the mounting board, and then using a little bit of heat and pressure in the dry mounting press, you apply heat for 1 minute, 90 seconds maximum, and in that time the tissue is bonded to the board and to the print under heat. You remove it from the press and examine the print, make sure it's stuck in all the corners, and that is basically your dry mounted print, pretty much like the one I've just shown you here, bonded forever. So essential items: dry mounting press, tacking iron, and a little bit of technique. The other materials I use are museum board, my dry mounting tissue. I like to use a Demco, I always have. There's other brands, there's all sorts of sizes. You can 8 by 10 sheets. This is 16 by 20, and I tend to cut it down into offcuts for all sorts of size prints. And the print I'm going to mount today, put these out of the way, don't need them, is a print I made last year, in fact. A nice little print of Riveretive, Glenative. So there we have fibre-based bromide paper, which is ready to mount. And you could just tack it with, as I said, hinges and mount it and not worry about it, and you just deal with the slight undulations of the paper, which give it quite a nice quality. But I do like to see the prints totally flat, and you'll see once I've mounted this print, it just looks really finished and really neat. And then with the over mount or over mat, ready for framing. So today I'm going to frame this print for you as a demonstration. That's the overboard, we don't need that. So first things first, we need to apply the dry mounting tissue. Oh, let me just run through some of the equipment. So yeah, I have a blow brush to get rid of dust, a timer. You could use your watch or your iPhone, but I have my timer here. The heating press is turned on, ready to go. This little card was made in 1995, a little test that I did. And there's a little strip of bromide paper on there with the little corner lifted, totally bonded to the museum board. And the test I did was at 200 degrees Fahrenheit, about 90 degrees Celsius. And I tend to mount from 45 seconds to 60 seconds maximum. One of the key things to do during the heat process is to use a board to sandwich the print in, and this is a silicone release paper, which is kind of a smooth cartridge paper with a special surface which makes sure nothing sticks to the print. It's totally clean and flat. I've been using this quite a long time. I have different sizes pre-cut depending on my print size. So you put the print in between the silicone release into the press at 90 degrees Celsius for 60 seconds, and it's bonded forever. I like gloves, as I've said, because it keeps everything clean and neat. I've turned the print over and now I've got to tack the tissue, which is pre-cut. These are full sheets of 2016, and I have some little off-cut sheets, and they always come in handy for something, so I try not to throw anything away. And this is the tissue. The tissue is slightly different, oversized to the print. I like to do that because I'm going to trim the edges of the print neatly to the crop that I finally want, and I want to make sure that the tissue goes all the way to the edge of the printed image, so there's no area that could possibly lift once this thing's been mounted. We have our tacking iron, which has been preheated, and you notice it's got a little curve like shoe, so you can use the flat face for a large indent, or you can lift and have a slightly finer line, or you can rotate it and just dot a line. Now some people will tack with a big cross, which is fine. Some people like to do a circle. In my case, I just like to lift the iron slightly higher than it should be, and you can just see the tissue melting. Now you don't want to press too hard, because if you do that, the heat and the pressure could make a slight imprint on the reverse of the print. So the way to test with using enough heat is just to see if it's bonded, and it has. So that's loosely bonded. The reason we do this is because now we're going to cut away the edges, as I said, back on my little stand, and we do not want the tissue to come off once you've cut it, otherwise you've got to start again. So let's just turn the print over. It has the dry mount tissue lightly bonded, tacked onto the print. Let's just remove our mount board. You could use a rotary trimmer for this, or you could use a guillotine. I am pretty old school. I like to use a nice new scalpel blade, razor sharp, and a straight edge. I just find it gives me more control and accuracy over the cutting, and I also like these cutting mats with the grids on, so you can make sure everything's nice and square. So I'm now going to just trim the edge of the print away. This is why I'm not too fussed about my photographic borders in the printing process, because I know that ultimately once it's ready to mount, I'm just going to take a tiny bit of image away. I'm so not saying this is the best way to do it, but it's just the way that I like to trim my prints manually. Obviously be very careful when using a scalpel blade. And you can see the tissue is exactly lined up with the edge of the print. The little line that we did to tack has just held nicely. So all we have to do now is position this print on our mounting board. So we place our print upon our museum board. And okay, there are many ways to centre a photographic print. I've seen the mounting tools, the tees, and we have rulers and tape measures. But the way I found quickest at the end of the day was to use my eye and then just finally centre check with we could check either with marking piece of paper, but I like to use one of the offcuts from my museum board, a nice clean straight edge. So I visually centre my prints by eye, usually not far out. So I like maybe slightly more room at the bottom, so it's visually centred on the mount. So I think we're probably about there. Okay. And then what I would do to make sure it is accurate, a sheet of art paper, it could be anything really. I'll then, you can use any weight, paper weight, but I've got my old lens here, condenser. I'll just double check. So pencil and straight edge. Some of you might be thinking, why on earth do I use a tape measure? And indeed, why don't I? But if you just butt that into the edge and do a mark on the edge of your mount, let's just do a pencil line there and go to the other side. You can see I'm very slightly out, not bad for an eye measurement. So if I just split the difference and then again just slide the print over. And now we'll make another mark, a new mark. This is why I wear gloves, so I can touch the print. It's our side marker. And you'll see we're bang on pretty much. Top and bottom to the side. Then I'll check the base of the print. Make another line. And we'll just put a B on there for now. And butt it up, and that needs to just drop a little bit, so let's just lower the print, base, side, side, and then the top is kind of irrelevant, but we'll check. It's just slightly less than the base distance, so that's our top mark. Put a T. And we'll just check the other side to make sure we're good. And T, we are good. So a simple piece of card for this same size print. I could use this again and repeat, so I don't have to bother with the measurement. I've got my base distance, I've got my side distance. Check it centered. And then the last thing you do before we put it into the press is we tack the print down so that it won't move when it's inside the press itself. We've gone to all this trouble to square the print beautifully. Some people just do one spot tack, but I just lift the corner very gently to expose the tissue, and I'll make one soft tack there, and I might lift the opposite corner and do the same thing. This is why I've got the weight, because it allows me make sure I won't move the print. So 2 corners are now tacked, the tissue won't slide, and we can guarantee that the print will remain square during the mounting. And so you can see the print is loosely tacked on there, ready for dry mounting. Key thing, if there's any dust on the print or dust in the silicone release paper, this could be a problem. So what I'm going to do is get this ready to go. I'm just going to rotate the print there because I'm not mounting the board, I'm mounting the photograph, and the silicone release just covers the print nicely there. But before I cover it up, we just make a final check with our blow brush and just look for any tiny bits of dust that may have got in the way, and then gently lay our silicone over the top, and this is now ready to go into the dry mounting press. So as I've said, we have our silicone release paper, our print, and we're ready to put the print inside. Checking on the, we've got a mercury thermometer there, and we are now on nicely up to 100, just on 100 degrees Celsius. It's a little bit hot. As soon as I put this paper in, it's going to take the temperature down a little bit. But 90 degrees for 60 seconds is my kind of standard mounting time. I'm ready to go. We're going to do 1 minute on this. This gives an awful lot of pressure, this helical thread. So just a light twist, and we're going to time 60 seconds. So there we go, 55 seconds, 1 minute. Take the board out, and essentially we just check to make sure all the corners are adhered. I like to bow slightly and gently, make sure there's no corners lifting, and basically we have one permanently dry mounted fibre based print on museum board. So there we have my method for dry mounting photographs. It's something I've been using a long time for my portfolio prints and exhibition prints, and I think it looks really stunning.